Hi there, everyone. This is Sharon with Self Care You Podcast, the number one self caregiver in the world. And this podcast is the intersection of self care, advocacy, and compassion for self caregivers. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And so, for this episode, what we will talk about is building wealth. And you know that this is self care, right? And so, what I want to talk about is building wealth from different perspectives. Because anyone who has been following me for a while, who's been listening to the self care podcast, informally known as Informed Advocate Podcast, know that self care is a passion of mine, and I'm here to help you instill self care in your life every way, in every way. And you're like, Sharon, what does that have to do with wealth? Well, we talk about building generational wealth. And how do you go about doing that? And just like in self care, because again, in how that saying goes of how we do one thing is how we do everything. And we'll think that that's not true. We would think when certain things are in place that we will start. No, it starts right now. I'm going to tell you a story. I remember when I was dating this guy, we had our separate places, and I know where I work, oh gosh, it was really stressful at that times. And actually, when I think about it, I've had several jobs that was really stressful. But anyway, I am one of those person that there will be a dish left, or will be a couple of dishes left in the sink. Everybody's different, don't judge me. But the whole point is, we were dating, we moved in together. And even though I knew how he was, but also he saw how I was. And I'm like, okay, I'll get better when. I'll get better when we'll move in together. Then I can start, washing dishes. I just have this thing about dishes. I don't know what it is. But anyway, it did not get better. If anything, there have been times in which I just say we had some discussions regarding those dishes. But my whole point is that we're thinking that if certain things would be in place, that there are certain external, because that would have been an external stimuli to say, okay, let me get this done. But what I came to realize, it was my habits. It wasn't just the ideal or even having the external stimuli. So it's the same thing when it comes to our wealth. And I'm talking about our physical health, our spiritual health, and even our financial health. Because you may know, if you don't know already, that now I am a financial professional. So, I tell you, the things that I have learned, am learning to build my financial wealth up, to expand. And if anything, I have a drive to help others, especially individuals in the mental health arena, in the wellness arena. That is my forte. Definitely would still continue to help everyone. But this message is for everyone, though. And so the thing is, when it comes to your health, your physical health, your spiritual health, your emotional health, and your financial health, what are you doing? What are you putting in place? What habits are you forming? If you listen to, I can't remember, was it a Self Care You Nugget, or it could have been a previous podcast. I can't remember right now, but I know I said it. In that, what steps are you taking? What books are you reading? Because first of all, in everything that I have read thus far, in everything I have seen, every single person has said when they have become wealthy, it was a mindset. It's when They read books. It's the self-development, it's the personal development. So what are you doing to level up yourself? Doesn't mean that you're like a bad person or you're not worthy or anything like that. But it does take a different way of thinking. Because one thing that I have learned, and oh man, it is definitely a shift for me in that when it comes to making decisions, when it comes to business, you know how that little saying thing, I'm going to say this first. When it comes to business and really just life, it's making a decision, stick with it, and ride it out, regardless of the outcome. It is, as they say, it is what it is. No one can control the outcome. It doesn't mean that a decision wasn't a good decision because you just look at it, hey, this is something that I can learn for or even build upon. Because again, you've heard me say it before, this one decision on this particular day, let's say, can make you millions, and then on another day can break the bank. And so when it comes to things in that, it's really important for you to stick with the decisions that you have made. The other thing when it comes to that, when it comes to building, again, wealth within yourself, is to feed yourself and to feed yourself first. Make sure. And when I say that, I'm not really talking about food, and there's different discussions when it comes to, like children and family and spouses and things like that. You guys can decide that on your own. It is okay. But the main thing is that you're feeding yourself the information. It's not enough to feed yourself the information. The main thing is, what are you acting? What are you implementing? What are you planning? Because that's the other thing. Because again, like I said, I had a thought process that it was the external motivation that would get me to do something. No, 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 no. It's the habits that are formed along the way. And so it is really important for you to be able to build yourself up. And it's not just in building yourself up, it's also in you doing the things that needs to be done, whether you feel like it or not. Now, when I say that, I'm talking to myself as well, because there are times it's like, I just don't feel like it, But in going back to what I was saying is that one thing that I am learning and have learned when it comes to business, and again, this is in life too. Make a decision, stick with it, and ride it out. It's not that it's a good or bad decision, it's just a decision. Because sometimes you may not have the luxury of to say, oh, well, let me think about it. Let me see what this is all about. It's like it's presented to you now, when it comes to the legal stuff, yes. But when it comes to, let's just say, shaking it off, may be, an opportunity that may have passed you by. And one thing that I have discovered or realized, because we in society have this thing, let's say if something passed you by, and then we like to say, well, it just wasn't your time. And if it was meant for you, it was meant for you, it would be for you. But you know what I come to realize is that, I don't know, I'm not sure if I truly believe in that anymore. Sometimes I think that's a way to save face, whether or not to save the ego, to save feelings and emotions, because somebody may feel bad because something has passed by or have some guilt around something. And of course, not to have any guilt, it pretty much it just is what it is. But one thing that I will say is that whatever decision that you made, it's a decision that you made. And if you do see that it's something like, oh man, I should have jumped on that, then you learn to jump on it. So pretty much what I'm saying too is sometimes you may not have the luxury to think about it and to mellow in it and things like that. Go ahead and make the decision that you need to make. So in saying that, what are the steps that you are taking? What are the plans that you are taking in order to build wealth? What are you reading? What are you doing? Who are you hanging around? And again, when I'm saying all of this, I'm saying this to myself and I am practicing, and at least in getting in the rooms and in hearing and doing things different. Yes, it takes practice, it's building a muscle of something. The other thing is that comes along is, what are you willing to listen to? What are you willing to be curious about? Because when it comes to the financial services, some of that is insurance products. And a lot of times people are like, oh, well, I don't need that. I already have insurance. And you're not open to hear, to see, what is this for me? How can I do that? Because one thing that I have learned, it's not just about the money that you make, it's the things that you put in place and about you being disciplined. And so, when you, especially for individuals who have children, I would say nieces and nephews, I'm not saying instead of, but I say in addition to opening up a bank account, a savings account, a checking account. Also, really look to see what are some other ways that you can invest in yourself and also in your loved ones, because of the fact there are some hidden gems, not just knowledge, but hidden things that you can do to really set up. Like, how are you setting up those things for your family, like other than you working? Because if you, let's say you have a job, yes, you have health and life insurance with most jobs, and even with jobs that you're part-time, but if you're PRN, you don't. Sometimes for some part-time jobs, you may not, and so if everything is at the job and you get fired from that job, or you quit the job and you don't go to another job that has health and life insurance, then what? So this is why it's so important, especially when it comes to health insurance. I mean, life insurance, to have something set up in addition to that. And then even when it comes to the 401 plan, anybody who has a 401k know that you have lost money, and we just accept that. But one thing that I will say, that there are other things in place where you won't lose any money. Like, what are you talking about, Sharon? What they're going to say is, contact me so that, let's see, is this it? Yeah. Contact me so that you can learn more, especially for those of us who are in the mental health arena, who's in the wellness arena, so that we can really, we're out here trying to help others, but what are we doing to really help ourselves? You know what I mean? The other thing is, what I want you to really think about in that, when it comes to building wealth within our physical health in it, because we like to say, oh, health is wealth, which is true, because there's no need of grinding and all of this, and if your health is not going to be well. So it's really important for you to take care of yourself. But the thing is that you can be taking care of yourself, because we've seen it happen and get in a car accident. So is your family set up if you pass away? But are you set up if you live? If you can be taking care of yourself health wise, and sometimes some individuals still have a heart attack or stroke. It's not that, are you prepared when you die? Because I would say, okay, most people would take the responsibility, still not everyone, in making sure that there's a policy in place. But I would definitely say evaluate it, because you may be able to upgrade it to a better policy as well. And so, pretty much of who I'm associated with, my company definitely have the best of the best. And so if we're not able to find it, believe me, no one will be able to find you the best deal that there is. But the thing is, what plans are you putting in place? And we need to start having these conversations. We're always like, oh, these uncomfortable conversations. No, they're conversations. So erase the word uncomfortable. These conversations that we need to have. And one thing that I will say that I do regret of not having more of an open conversation is a loved one of mine had passed away. And then at the end of the day, they did not have a policy in place, in which in general I talked about it because they did have a policy at one time. And but I didn't know that until after the passing. And so just in saying that, when it comes to older individuals in our family, have that open conversation. And of course, they would need to give you permission and sign if you decide to get a policy on them. And there are some products out there, I will say, that even if someone does have health issues, health conditions, that you can still get a policy, I would say to at least bury the person, because at the end of the day, too, even someone is cremated, that calls, I mean, even if they're cremated from the city, depending what city that you're in. I can remember when I lived in South Carolina, and I think it was like $300, and some people didn't have $300, to cremate their loved one. And so again, the whole point of all of this is in building wealth within yourself, for yourself, through yourself. And even when it comes to the monetary piece of it, it takes planning, it takes action, and continue. And it takes discipline. So, what plans do you have in place to really look at it? Because it's about having a foundation. Building the foundation isn't just about, okay, I'm going to open this business and then what, but what is your vision about yourself? That's where it's at, the vision that you have in your life. And it's not just the vision, it's the steps towards the vision, living the vision now. Know where you're going, who you're talking to do that. So what are your 3, 5, 10, 20 years plan of your life of creating that generational wealth? And it's not just about the bank account. It's how you're going to build that. Do you have a trust? What are the things that you're doing? And my thing is, if you have a house, if you own a house, and if you have, I would say, any type of money, if you own a house, any type of money, and especially you have a business, remember, mental health professionals can contact with me. Make sure you have a trust. So we say that you want, we're breaking the generational curse. So, what steps are you taking to break it? What are you doing? Of course, when it comes to the healing, but we got to talk about the currency as well. And so, just remember, it's like, what are you preparing for? When you hear insurance, nobody is not trying to sell you anything. We're really trying to prepare you for life. We're not trying to prepare you for death. Everyone is going to transition. Everyone has a due date of death. I hate to put it like that, but a due date of death. But no one knows when, because that's just like when it comes to birth. The doctor can do an estimate of when the birth will occur. I know the doctor did an estimate when I was to occur, but I'm like, hey, I'm coming out early, So no, there is a due date of death. We never know when it will be, and it could be earlier. But what about when we are living? And the other thing is, plan for your retirement. I mean, I used to be one, oh, I got my 401k, and then depends on where I work, may or may not have a pension plan. And other than Social Security, no, it's more than that. And when it comes to, having a legacy, when it comes to college planning, definitely give me a ring Set up a time, because there are some, I would say, college planning products out there, I would say, can better serve you, and just really learn how money works. Again, I had this thing. It's like, oh, when I make six figures, then I know. It starts where you are, because just think about this for a moment. Even though you could say it's one time, but it's really not one time. Sometimes you may think you're helping, especially for people who have children, you helping the child by, making them feel good. No, you're helping them by helping, teaching them how to make themselves feel good, teaching them how to deal with disappointment, teaching them how to overcome adversity. And it's not about the feel good. The feel good isn't going to get you anywhere. Oh, believe me, I know, because I have been in a shelter, and Lord knows when those things hit, it's like, oh, what is this? And this is why I'm such a big advocate for self care. It's not just the healing part, it's the part that will allow you to be resilient. And let's stop thinking that um, just because you experience something and it automatically makes you resilient, because that's not true. That's not always true, because just because something has passed, did you truly overcome it? It's past, but did you truly overcome it? Are you courageous, or you just step in a back room and it's like, I'm not going to deal with this. And so again, when it comes to you building your wealth, definitely contact me so that we can talk about building wealth inside and out, so you could be elevated of where you want to be in life, because that's where it's at. So thank you for joining me for this Self-Care You podcast. And remember to like and share and listen to previous episodes as well, because that is going to help you build the wealth within you, for you, and through you, so you can have the external wealth that you like as well.